We all have a story to tell. Some are just beginning, others have been unfolding for years. Welcome to the Shaman Stories Podcast. Each week, I sit down with guests to explore their journeys into spirit, the challenges, awakenings, and the moments that shaped who they are today. So take a breath, settle in, and join me as we uncover the stories that lead us back to our true selves. All right, welcome everyone. Today I have Katie Kay. She's a tarot reader, astrologer, and a spiritual coach. Thanks for being with me today, Katie.
Yeah, great to be here, Jeremy.
So why don't you let everybody know a little bit? I mean, I gave us quick bio, but just what you do today and all that good stuff.
Uh, okay, so I've done astrology and tarot for probably over 35 years. Okay. I loved it. I learned it. It came naturally. I did it in the background of doing legal corporate work for
Mhm.
35 years. So, and that was an interesting paradigm because legal corporate doesn't usually use tarot cards to design its legal arguments. But so it strengthened it. It showed me how to approach different people and their belief systems. And then I left legal corporate and I said, this doesn't fit anymore. And I went full into being a coach, taking a coaching paradigm, I guess you could call it, and putting it with the astrology and tarot. So my basic business is I use the astrology chart to work with people with coaching. Okay. Because I don't need a questionnaire. You don't even ask any questions. I look at your chart and I'm pretty sure I know what we're going to talk about. You know, the tarot is a different mechanism, but I use that also with clients, ongoing coaching clients. And then I take these tools to small fairs, and I have a little booth and a little table, and it's mostly tarot, however you want to say it. But I do tarot and astrology at this little table, showing people how I start the conversation for possible coaching. So that's in a nutshell. There's other things hopefully in the works, but that's a nutshell.
Sounds good. And that's definitely an interesting combination with the legal stuff that I definitely am more curious about and how you got to that. But I guess what I like to do is kind of start at the beginning as well. So, what was it like growing up for you? Did you have these influences? Were your parents into astrology, tarot, a relative, neighbor?
No, I was brought up Catholic, so but it was more pro forma, ritual, dogma, going to church. Not a whole lot of deeper metaphysical or spiritual insights. Really, it was okay, but it was what it was. However, I was always very mystified why people didn't talk about reality, like where'd the trees come from? Like how did they get here? Oh, I didn't make it. I remember walking home from school and going, why don't we talk about this stuff? I mean, and it was a classic, I was brought up, you didn't have to talk about your feelings or anything intimate. You just went on and did life, you just did life. So we didn't talk about stuff like that, no metaphysical conversations. Um, my mom at one point, she and I talked about palmistry. And I remember her saying how cool it was, and we learned a little bit. Um, so now that you mention it, there was that. We didn't go far with it. My mom died at 47, pretty young. I was 21, and the youngest was 7. There's a big bunch of kids. So we didn't have a lot of conversation, but there was always an awareness of a continuity past death. In other words, she died at home, and the conversations with her really solidified for me that her energy went someplace.
Mm.
That, yeah, that I don't, and in contrast to church people praying for her to get better, and me going, why don't we help her die? Aren't we okay with this? So those things started going on in that youth. And it wasn't probably until my 20s that I really got into a lot of reading and metaphysical stuff. So yeah, that's the beginning.
Nice. And were you already doing the legal corporate world at that time
Uh,
too?
uh, no, I started out. I started out life as a babysitter, obviously, because I was the oldest, and I always worked. I was pretty independent. I did a lot of administrative assistant. When I was a kid, I would always like to play secretary. I have a stapler and paper clips and papers and pens. I was always, I think, a writer. I was always a writer. I am basically a poet at the bottom of everything. And so that when I got into administrative assistant stuff and word processing, I could always get a job doing that kind of stuff. 100 words a minute was a big deal back then.
Mhm.
And so I ended up getting into bookkeeping, accounting, and then legal. It was intellectual property work, patents, and trademarks, which was very fascinating to me because it was all about creation, ideas. I remember some of those ideas we would read in the office. I went, oh, a self composting toilet. What a great idea. Or I had a rotary engine car and I went, oh, that's such a great idea. I mean, I enjoyed that kind of inventive stuff, but it was mostly, I was married and the dear husband at the time was an entrepreneur. So we never really had the flow of resources, let's say. And so, and I ended up a single mom for a while. So working was, what I did,
Hmm.
that kind of thing.
And so when did you find tarot, or which came first, tarot or astrology?
Oh, tarot. Oh, that's a good story. Um, while I was working in some office, we went to a little Chinese restaurant for some kind of holiday or something. All of us went, and there was a tarot reader at the restaurant. And so she read my cards, first time out of the blue, read my cards, and it knocked my socks off. I just went, what? And at one point, I said something, and I don't know why this came up, but I'll remember it, that I said, my husband always says he never had anything to eat. I was complaining about him or something. And she said, ask him about the candy bar. And that night he said, oh, I haven't eaten anything all day. And I went, what about the candy bar? He was struck silent. And God love him, that wasn't a normal thing, being struck silent. So I was sold. I got a deck. I learned tarot pretty much by myself, but I'm not sure which came first or if they came together. Up in Seattle, we had, it still is active. It's called the Washington State Astrological Association. And it's, I think, one of the oldest around. It was the beginning of the people who established the Kepler University, Kepler College, I think it's called, which is, I'm not sure if it's it is a astrology college. Okay. I have, so I went into a lot of workshops, a lot of training. I did not go through the college because I didn't at that time. It was established after I did a lot of my education. But the people who established the college were my teachers. Okay. And the Washington State Astrological Society offered a certification program. So I'm actually a certified astrologer. I took an 8-hour test.
Jeez.
And let me tell you, back then we did not have computers. So I did a chart. I had to draw and design a chart for somebody like born in Singapore at a certain time using logarithms. Now, not many of your audience might know what logarithms are, and I don't need to explain it because I can't remember. And God bless you, you never have to know. But I had to do the math twice. It was an 8-hour test, and I had to do the math twice. But I got through, and I was felt really good that a panel of my peers thought I really knew what I was talking about. So, and there was a lot of, and there still is debate on if certification is, like having a PhD string, if it's really brings validity or not. But I'm very proud of it, and I enjoyed it, and I don't have initials at the back of my name, but I do tell people that I'm a certified astrologer and a certified coach.
Nice. And so with that, because you mentioned, once you got into the legal corporate world, you started working with it. Did you just kind of ask, or I guess the question is, what exactly were you doing with the legal side? Were you actually working with clients, trying to help them through a process?
I,
Were
I,
you,
I I started out as a secretary, then I went to a paralegal, then I was
that
a
was the word I
paralegal
was trying to
manager.
think of,
Yeah,
paralegal.
yeah, and then a paralegal manager, you know. And what I recognized just briefly through that I am definitely a wrangler. Okay, I'm not. I don't have much Virgo, let's say, or much Earth. Anybody who knows that kind of stuff. I'm a Cancer sun, so I like to give. I am an Aries moon, so don't cross me. And I have Gemini rising, so I can talk forever as long as I keep talking. So I recognized I recognized my talents as a wrangler, the oldest of nine now, and having two kids and a couple of grands. Wrangling is normal for me, so I ended up doing the wrangling, and I really enjoyed it. And what I think, how just like being from a big family, working with a staff and helping it run smoothly. At one point, there were 17 brilliant paralegals I was working with. Brilliant. They would tell me their problems, and I would just nod, and we would work something out because I could barely follow them, but wrangling was okay. I recognized so many patterns in human relationships. The attorneys, the secretaries, the paralegal, there was hierarchy, there was mix-ups, etc. So even though when I worked at a firm for, I think, a combination of 13 years, we had a newsletter, and I had a little astrology newsletter called Astro Hounds, signed by one of my pen names, Stella. So I was able to bring it in to a different culture. I don't know if I made, you know, brought any insights or anything like that. But I was really pleased that they allowed it, that there was a conversation. When I was in one of those firms, when 9/11 hit that morning, and I remember establishing a prayer room. I said, let's get a prayer group together, and that was sort of a, how can I say that? It was a message that I was guided that we have to do something to bring this to a spiritual plane. And I haven't thought about that in a while, but I remember that. So
Hmm.
that's how it's sort of mixed. Uh, it ended up not mixing when I realized that the square peg round hole didn't fit. That I was not meant to. I, my my corporate facade just didn't work anymore. There were betters. They were betters. They did that better, and I didn't want to play that anymore. So,
But yeah, so I guess to carry on with that question or train of thought was when you were working with the clients, did you like read their chart to see how they might do in the court, or did you read cards to see if you should work for them?
oh,
I'm just curious how you were mixing it together.
well, I had separate readings with people, sometimes in that business and sometimes not.
Yeah.
I would definitely do the charts of the attorneys I was working for. So I would be a paralegal or a secretary and three or four attorneys, and then they'd move us around, that kind of thing. I did a lot of communication appointments, drafting, stuff like that. I didn't work directly with clients,
Okay.
but it really helped me know, and the paralegals, it really helped me if I would do their charts, go, oh, let's talk to this person this way. For instance, I have, what do I have? I have a fire Mercury. Mercury is how you talk, how you think. I have fire Sagittarius. So, and this actually helped with my husband too. When I would see somebody else had an Earth Mercury, they they would think in Earth terms, stuff, structure, organization.
Mm.
I would communicate in, yeah, but where are we going with this? Where are we going with this? And so I think it was the start of me being aware and recognizing that if I shifted my word imagery, then we could communicate better. For in family dynamics, which I can tell an awful lot in the chart. If one paralegal's acting like a controlling mom and the other paralegal's acting like a pouty kid, and I bring them in and go, okay, stop. Let's go to the adults. But acknowledging it has a lot to do with my coaching these days, that if we honor our feelings, they give us good information for choosing, being aware and choosing a new path, a different path, having that courage. So that's how they interacted a lot. Yeah.
I like that. That's an interesting way because when I think of astrology, it's usually like what time of the month is good for doing this or that. Be careful about my limited understanding of it. Be careful what you do during this part of the month because this is in this house and this house relates to your family or this house relates to money. This is a good time to start a project. But I didn't really ever think about it in terms of, oh, this is how that person thinks or acts because of this. So this is how I need to interact with them because of these things. Coming from an IT world, I deal with that where I'll talk to an engineer one way, but then I'll talk to a customer a different way.
Right.
But it has nothing to do with chart. It's just knowledge base and understanding
Right.
their lingo. So
Yeah.
that's
It's very similar. And that's why I'm fascinated with relationships, because I'm just fascinated that we all get along as much as we do. But I remember there was a woman who, let's say, who had a lot of Scorpio. Scorpio is an intense emotional depth. Okay. And she had a son, which was a little Pisces. And Pisces, like, la, 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 whatever. I don't really care. Whatever. And so when she wanted like an answer, she wanted a behavior. And I said, this is how you relate, and this is what you expect. But this is how he is. And I remember registering, she goes, oh. And I said, try talking this way instead of this way. Um, it's it's one of the more fun things I do. Um, and another thing I do, and I'll mention it now because you got me talking, is the aspects of when we're born. I take it as a blueprint of what we chose. Our first breath. I'm going to play with all this stuff in this life. It's a theory of design as much as Jungian, transactional, any other kind of philosophy or theory. Yeah, if it works, fine. If it doesn't, I don't care. But how's the planets shine on each other, right? We live in a world that has seasons and cycles and weather, and it's all because of the movement of the planets, the tides, the growing seasons. People say don't believe it. I said, that's fine. I hope you're not a sailor because you got to know the tides. And I hope you're not a farmer because you got to know the growing seasons. It's all it is. And now there's 10 planets. So seeing how they shined on each other as birth really lets me see how events in people's childhood might have created a survival mechanism. At 3 years old, I'll use myself. I was the oldest. My brother was born. I didn't get attention. What the heck? 3-year-old kid. I don't know if your audience has 3-year-old kids, but they're establishing their place in the world. But my mom, God bless her, said, oh, you're being such a good big sister. And I ran and got the diaper and I got attention. Now, whether it's really linear or people believe it, I believe that really set me up. I can get attention by taking care of people.
hmm.
And a Cancer sun is a very giving, but then the Aries moon comes up and says, you're not paying attention to me. There's a lot of stories about that. So we can do that another time.
No, yeah, and that reminds like when we met at the expo and you did a astrology reading on me and you're like, yeah, what happened around 5 or 6? I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot all about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I remind people I'm not a therapist. I don't have therapist mechanisms or patterns. So we don't have to go back there and people don't have to remember anything. I'm talking more about the 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 mechanism and how these energies might have affected each other and the survival mechanism that was righteous and perfect and beautiful that might now be a little out of whack.
Hmm.
So we go back to those energies and try to reframe them. Okay. For me, I have a Cancer sun, giving. I have an Aries moon. You got to pay attention to me, right? I'm first. And they are in a challenging aspect. So I could be giving, 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 and then be pissed at you because you weren't paying attention. Or I could go forward with a lot of emotional stuff and not take care of myself. Okay. But when I did a lot of work on this, that if I have too much water, it'll put out the flame. And if I have too much flame, it'll dry up all the water.
Hmm.
I love going back to the basic elements. And so, but if you get water and fire together, you get good steam. And so that's my endeavor. When I get fired up or if I get too codependent or moody, I get pouty. I just go, okay, well, okay, let's do a couple hours pouty. I just go cuddle up underneath the covers and read a book.
And that's also one of my questions that I had is because you mentioned it too, you have the rising sign, you have the sun, you have the moon. A lot of times when I'm seeing astrological predictions, when they do like a big group of people, it's usually just the sun or maybe the rising sign. If you have three different signs, is there one you should primarily focus on more versus another? So, even for myself, I have Gemini in the sun, Capricorn rising, and a Scorpion moon. And so it's, which one is the balance or which one should I focus on? Should it only be the sun and the moon? Like, you know what I mean? Because you're talking
Oh,
about
that's a really good question, Jeremy. Because of course I look at all 10 of them, but I usually start with the sun
Hmm.
because that's supposedly the focus of your consciousness.
Okay.
That's the spotlight for this life. And so you're a communicator. You're a communicator, you're a social connective, you're obviously doing that. And usually when I help people with their path, it comes out. Yeah, I like doing this. So that's the bliss we talked about. The next thing I look at is the heart, is the moon. The moon is a symbol of the heart, about what you love, how you love, and it has a lot to do with uh, a relationship with your mom. Okay, bonding. You can tell a lot about bonding. The sun has a lot to do sometimes with the hierarchy, the force, the yang, the dad. There's that. And the rising is, and just so people know, it's the zodiac that was on the eastern horizon, excuse me, when you were born. It has a lot to do with how you face the world. If you have a Capricorn rising, that's an outgoing building sign. So you like to build things.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And if you're in tech, no matter what you're doing in tech, you're creating something. And that's amazing in my head. And creating, so there's the sun in Gemini. So you're creating communication. Okay. The moon in Scorpio, you feel deeply. You might not share that deeply because a Scorpio moon sometimes uh, can be overwhelmed with feelings. If I start crying, I'll never stop. If I get mad, I'll hurt somebody. That kind of stuff, because it's a deep emotional. It, it's a shaman
Hmm.
sign, So you also, I believe, knowing you just briefly, you have those shaman characteristics of trying to help people through their dark night of the soul, because you're doing this, and I don't. I'm sure you've been through some kind of dark night of the soul because you're still alive.
Yeah. That is true.
So, but to answer your question, what I tell some people is if you read daily horoscopes, read all three
Mhm.
and think of a combination. The sun is usually the conscious, the moon is the heart, and the rising is how you deal. Uh, it also has a lot to do with how the planets show up. If your moon came up on the eastern horizon, like within the day of your born, you have your heart on the sleeve. So yeah, it's very hard to also do as I find. I'm amazed at people who talk about astrology for groups. Um, I'll give a pitch for NORWAC, the Northwest Astrology Conference, NORWAC, which is held in May around Memorial Day every year. I think they're in their 40th year.
Wow.
Um, these are also people who were my teachers, who are now the grandchildren are now organizing this amazing family feeling. But there's so many distinct narrow niche workshops, and everybody brings their own chart. So there's a recognition of individualization, but it is not easy to explain because somebody could be a Leo and act more like a Pisces because of the way they look,
Mhm.
or vice versa.
Yeah, I believe that one's in Seattle too every year. I think
Yeah.
they're also doing it online now too.
Yes.
So you can do
Yes.
it both
Yeah.
ways if you can't make it to Seattle. I've heard about it. I've never been to it yet, but
Yeah.
it's come up a few times in some of the other people I follow.
Yeah. It's wonderful. Well, I find it wonderful because I've been doing it. I've been doing tarot at the astrology conference for probably close to 30 years. And the original woman who put it on, Maggie Nalbanian, uh, is passed now. She looked a lot like this, and they had a little shop in the University District in Seattle, and I used to sit with her on Saturdays and read tarot. So it's a very wonderful place to be on a regular basis, and they do incredibly well with what they do. Greg, Laura, and Jennifer, and all the clan, amazing, and the friends and staff. Yeah.
And so do you find tarot is very compatible or a good add-on to astrology or vice versa? Like, is there a
Uh,
time where you would want to use tarot first before astrology?
Another good question. Tarot is like a spiritual snapshot, a selfie, I call it. I used to call it Polaroid, and people would look at me and go, "Oh yeah, we don't have Polaroids." Okay, it's a selfie. So you could take a picture of me like this with the cards, but 5 minutes later, I could take a picture like that, or I could take a picture like that, so that they are very colorful imagery that invite and inspire deeper information. Um, Holy cards. They came from holy cards. They came from hieroglyphics. I think what I love about the so-called gypsies, which is an anagram of Egypt, that they took these secret hermetic mysteries and put them on cards and carried them around in full sight as the Romans, the Romanian gypsies. And yeah, there's a lot of information about that. So that's more of a snapshot, potentiality, and deeper insights. The astrology blueprint, as I would call it, gives like blueprint information. It gives here's an illustration. It's a mirroring. I don't find it linear, karmic. It makes you do things. I don't get into that. We all have free will. The, in the center, there's no movement. The center of the circle. But I could use my Cancer sun to help people, and part of me is that endeavor, or I could live in my Aries moon and demand attention, for instance. So it it gives more information, and also in astrology, like you started out saying, um, you can take that chart and then you look where the planets are now, and that turns me with my clients into a weather person.
Hmm.
And I do say, remember the stuff we talked about, the survival mechanism that you had, and how we're working on moving it to a different way, more of the yin and the yang, or however that is? Well, it's going to be triggered. Mars is going to go over there and go, because I describe the astrology chart like a harp or a guitar. There's the strings. And then Mars comes along, or the planets come along and go ding, 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 and it's beautiful music, or they go boing, you know. So, and that's just normal seasons and cycles. There's nothing, I mean, I'm really into the Taoism lately that there's no good and bad, there's just change, so.
Interesting. And do you find because there's like two different main types of decks for tarot, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm.
The Marcel and the sorry, I can't think of the other name. But then
The
there's
Rider
also
Waite.
right away. That's
Yeah,
I think.
okay, good, yeah.
And then there's also like the Lenormand deck, where
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a
Yeah.
different deck. Do you find one works best than another for you? I mean, I think it's all dealer's choice, I'm sure, but just curious which one like you primarily work with.
I learned a lot from the Marseille deck. The Marseille deck is old. The minor arcana, or the pips, which is very much like a regular deck of playing cards,
Mm.
does not have a lot of pictures. It just has four rods or three swords. So it doesn't have a lot of interpretation. Then there's the major arcana, which is like the hero's journey. Okay. You put it together, it's 78 cards. Okay. That's a tarot deck. Okay. So the Marseille and the Rider Waite are both tarot decks. The Rider Waite is more the classic one that I hear and see in training, that came a lot from the Middle Ages, putting together in the Middle Ages. And my history might not, a lot of historians out there. Um, and so they're similar, but they have different pictures. And that's what's very unique about the tarot. It's very much like Rorschach cards. I will lay it out and then somebody goes, "Oh my God, that looks like my dad." And I go, "Oh, yeah, talk about your dad," because that's the Jungian theory. Easy. It's a collective unconscious. It's a dream. We see what we believe, etc. The Lenormand, boy, I don't even know
Len
how to say it.
Lenormand.
There,
Lenormand.
the Norman. Thank you. Is a completely different kind of. I would call it somewhat to an oracle deck. An oracle deck is a deck of cards that have symbols on them in some kind of order and structure that does the same thing, elicits a response, gives inspiration. Uh, in all these cards, lots of times they're used for conversation with the other side or your guide or your inner self. I used to have some Lenormand decks, but it didn't resonate with me. I have a friend who uses a lot of oracle cards, but they don't resonate. Resonation is something I believe comes from the heart, and I've given up the shoulds and stick with the resonation.
Yeah.
So,
No,
yeah.
and that makes sense. I mean, yeah, I've played around with them. I'm still dabbling and learning, but there's like one deck I keep going back to because that always seems to give me the most insight versus the other ones. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know what you're trying to tell me.
Well,
I'm
that's when I teach, when somebody goes, "I don't know what this is," I go, "Okay, shuffle, ask for more information,
Mm.
and do another reading. Do it until you feel comfortable with what you're getting." That's fun playing with the cards.
Okay, that makes sense. And is there I guess that's also another dealer's choice thing too, but do you find you need a specific amount of cards each time you're asking a basic question? Like I like to stick with five. I find five cards usually gives me everything I need. Sometimes I might do a clarifying card on one of them if I'm confused. But I've seen people do these massive tableaus, these huge spreads, Celtic cross. They look cool to me, but I mean, I'm sure they give you a lot more information, but to me, they just seem daunting. Is the best word I can use.
I'm with you. When I do my readings at fairs or with clients, I usually do five, and I do it in the shape of a cross, three down, and and the third one's in the same, and the three across, because I love the symbol of the cross because it's the intersection of the spiritual world with the material world, and there's millions of interpretations and reflections of that. Um, so I use the five cards a lot too. I studied the Celtic cross for a while, but it also had more information that I needed. It sort of
Mm.
seemed like, okay, that sounds redundant, that card. I I when I teach, I show, we start with one card. What does that say? And you get to know it. Then the three cards is often a real brief yes and no. You know, is this yes? Is this not? There's millions of ways to do it. You can decide yourself. And there's, a year card, a year. Hang on, I gotta plug myself in here. There's a year, letting the year cards, putting the year in cards. But yeah, I think five does it for me too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And with that, so I guess what is the best way someone should try to learn either tarot or astrology?
Mm, mm,
Because
mm,
it's one of those things. I've tried different courses myself. I've tried just
mhm.
reading the book. Personally, for me, when it comes to tarot, I've been trying to interpret and then I put it into like ChatGPT and see what comes out. And it's actually been pretty good
Yeah,
from what I
yeah,
can tell.
yeah,
It might not be the classic way and the most professional way, but when I'm just reading for myself, it's like, all right, here's my question, here's a little bit of the context, here's my cards.
yeah. That I gotta say that's not a bad way of doing it. Maybe it'll put me out of work, but it's not a bad way of doing it. But it reminds me of anytime you look up, you've used a book, you're doing that. And every deck of cards usually comes with a little book. Um, I give a lot of some that I have away because each one is a little different,
Hmm.
because it's from the eye of the beholder. Um, what I would recommend for tarot, though, which really helped me, is breaking it down to the four elements: fire, earth, air, and water. Fire is the sticks or the rods, swords is the air, cups is water, and the coins or the jewels or the diamonds are earth. And if you get to know what they are, and then you get to know the numbers 1 through 9, 10 is really one again. Okay. You can put these together, I think, and you go, okay, this is the six of coins. That's earth, and six means cycle. Okay, let's see how we put those together. That is something that really helped me. Um, Astrology has something similar. Astrology has the four elements, all the houses, planets, uh, whatever what else there is, have an alignment with one of the four elements, but they also have the modes: cardinal, fixed, and mutable. Cardinal is outgoing like a waterfall, fixed is fixed, and mutable is changeable. And so that I used to make matrices. And when I teach, I have handouts like that show these matrices, and that made it easy for me. You know, what element is this, and how is it moving?
Hmm.
So, for instance, Gemini is a moving air sign. It's like a wind. That's your sun. Your heart, Scorpio, is a fixed water sign. Feelings, deep feelings, and your ascendant is a cardinal earth sign, which is, I want to make things. I want to create things. I'm earth. Let's make things like that. So putting those things together really is a neat way to start. There's so many books out there. Just take one you like the way it's written, and for both disciplines, just play with it.
And do you find there's a difference either learning or using between Hellenistic astrology and what they call Western astrology?
To tell you the truth, I'm not quite as sure between Hellenistic and Western. I'm definitely clear about the difference between Vedic and
Okay.
Western.
Okay.
Yeah, Vedic is built instead of a circle, they have a square, and they pay more attention to the moon. And for anybody who knows astrology, I don't have any Virgo. I'm a woo woo kind of water girl, woo woo. So that I need people who have discernment and acuity and accuracy. And Vedic, I think, is for people who love that kind of stuff. I just never could get into it. And so I'd use the Western. And so much of my work these days does really lean on as we believe, so we see. As we believe, so our life unfolds. So if somebody believes that the Vedic is more true, then that will be more true for them. So,
That makes sense. Yeah, I think that's the one I was missing because I've heard of Hellenistic and then I've heard of Western, but to me it didn't seem too different because Western came from Hellenistic astrology
yeah,
from the
yeah,
way I understood it. But
yeah.
I always heard there was another one out there where it was not completely different, but
Yeah.
very,
Vedic is very different, and it's an interesting topic for people who want to go into that because it's my understanding more from India, which has a lot longer, deeper, older use and belief of that. Western culture in America, anyways, we don't do somebody's chart when they're born and have it there on that picture and everybody talks about it. My understanding is that's not unusual in the Vedic culture, but that's my understanding.
okay. And what do you think about people who use, they call it locational astrology, where you have to be in the specific place based upon your astrological sign. You're shaking.
I, I think it's really really cool. I wish I could learn it. I've tried to look into it and learn it, and I just go. I feel like one of those puppy dogs. What? I don't think so. So it's not something that I've tried to struggle with. I think it's fascinating, um, and in a higher viewpoint, metaphysically, we resonate with where we are. There are ley lines, there are magnetic lines. The Earth is an organism, I believe. And so, for instance, I have family in Southern California, and I lived there for a while, and I had to be back here. I'm in the Pacific Northwest now, and I love my family, and I wish I could live there, but I can't. And it's not the city; it's like the sun. But I know where my heart is. So I think that locational astrology, if people are interested, they should find somebody who's really good on it and play with that because, you know, sometimes people say, oh, you're just doing it geographic. You're just taking your troubles and moving it to someplace else. There's that kind of, I don't know, thing. But I do believe, and I have seen people who their lives just seem to flow better in a different place. So
Hmm.
I think it has a lot of validity, a lot of validity.
No, I can agree with that too. I've never tried it, but I've heard of it, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, yeah, I could see that. I mean, I would think too, based upon your chart, maybe you're not supposed to be around a lot of people, or you are supposed to be around a lot of people. It's kind of the same way with a job. If you're a good communicator, maybe you shouldn't be a cashier, stuck not being able to really make changes, but you're just scanning items.
Yeah,
Though maybe that is a good job because you're constantly talking to new people every day.
yeah,
So it could go either way.
yeah. And that's it's interesting too because it's the difference between am I given this challenge for a method to change or am I struggling against my nature? And that's a pretty interesting topic that I come into with clients a lot. Um, and that's why I really like the fact that the only constant is change. And I like the fact that at the bottom, it's all good because I believe when we get into a struggle, and I'm off on a tangent here, but
No,
you
that's
got
fine.
me talking. If we get into it, and this is the coaching part, that we have a struggle, it's like here's an old belief system and here's a new feeling, right? And very often the shoulds in our life seem to be logical. That's just the way it should be. And and uh, my endeavor is to soften this a little bit and say, why not? You know, so if you really want this, try it. Soften this and try this. Try your heart. And again, this is one of my things. Let your heart lead the way because your mind will back it up, man. Your mind is smart. You lived this long. You got through all this stuff. But if you have your mind leading the way, you're dragging your heart like a 2-year old in Costco, hungry and tired. The whole place is going to hear it until you give that heart a cookie and say, we're good. I don't know.
I like that. Uh, And with that, so when you're coaching clients, do you ever have clients who are just like, oh, I can't do anything this week because Mercury's retrograding, or the card said this, or, how do you work? Because I see that all the time online. Like, my life sucks right now because this planet's in my sign, or this is going on, or the cards say this, versus looking at it, like you say, as a challenge or something they just need to be aware of.
Yeah. That is the coaching thing. The cards are a reflection of us. If we believe that we're having a hard time, the cards are going, you're having a hard time. And I don't read cards for myself because I don't know what to do. I need to do. You don't know what to do. I'm going, okay. So my question is, give me some ideas of how to move forward. And then I shuffle with that. And then I see, here's an idea. Okay. Um, I do not believe, I actually don't believe in karma. And the reason, because the way it's described and talked about a lot of times is tit for tat, linear, cause and effect. And if you're into relative quantum physics, no, it's all happening at the same time. And the observer necessarily affects the outcome of the observed. You and I are looking at each other, but we're, miles away.
Hmm.
And I can look over here, but you don't see what I'm seeing, So the observer is makes meaning out of what to be observed. So that when people come up to me and say Mercury's retrograde, I can't do shit. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
um, I go, well, this is a really good time to review, rewrite, rethink, take some time. It's all about patience. Do it 3 times. Don't get upset. It happens a couple times a year. Mercury retrograde. It's not. It's being easy with changes. Okay. Venus retrograde. Do I really like this? Is this really pretty? Do I think I'm pretty? Do I feel valued? It's internal. It's like an upside down card. When I have upside down cards, it's like, well, look at it from a different point of view. Or how is this something that you're doing on the inside and you're not talk that you need to take care of on the inside? Um, Sometimes, I had a client recently that, her guides are telling her something really tough. And I don't know, I wanted to say you should fire those guides. They sound like really a pain in the neck, but I, uh, I attempted to give her another idea of how to move forward. That any kind of punishing or insisting force is a strong belief system. And I spend too much time in nature. It doesn't matter if it's a mountain, they will blow up. It doesn't matter if it's a river, they will carve the Grand Canyon and disappear. Things just simply change. So,
Nice. And going back to the tarot, like what are some questions you should ask when you're working with it? I mean, because you mentioned if you're feeling like you're stuck and you're asking how I'm feeling, it's going to show that you're stuck. So is there certain types of questions you should avoid versus certain types of ways of phrasing it? I like to go, what should I know about this or what should I look out for about this? Not necessarily is this going to be a positive outcome, but just what should I know? What should I be aware of?
Yeah,
Is
my
this
favorite,
right for me type of thing?
I think those are great questions. I also think, I need some guidance on that. Give me some ideas. You know, when, like you said, we have 5 cards and it seems unclear. I have a client says, "Oh, make sure it goes to a major card, the outcome." And so if the outcome is a minor card, I will keep going till it's a major card. Now that passage talks a lot about, well, you got things to do before you get there, you know. Um, yeah, uh, people ask yes or no questions, and one way to do is, what do I need to think about if I choose this? Do a reading. What do I need to think about if I choose the opposite? Do a reading. What would you think is best? Reading.
Hmm.
You know, it's very much of a gestalt, I think. Yeah, I don't read a lot for myself because I sort of read the room of my life. Well, a friend of mine calls it tarot by the side of the road. You see something, you go, "Oh, there's the hangman." Okay. And so yeah, so that's that. It's the best thing and the most fun way to enjoy the tarot is, I believe, is to play with it, to get a relationship with it, to enjoy it, to see it as a friend or a helper. um, when I teach, I say, okay, get a journal, and this is something I say, maybe do 3 cards and write down without looking in the book what you see and what you feel. Then look in the book and see how close you are, or leave it for the day and look at it at the end of the day, what you wrote and what the real thing was. I had a student once, and we were in a little group, and I said, okay, it was the first time. And I said, so what do you think that card says to you? I don't know. I don't get anything. I don't get anything. I said, okay, hang on. Look at the card and describe what you see. And she started describing the story that was exactly the meaning of the card. So I do believe that we have these kind of insights inside of us, and the belief that we can't or we don't or it's bad. You just gotta melt that a little bit.
Hmm.
Just play with it.
Interesting. Cool. So yeah, before we start wrapping it up though, is there any, I guess, piece of advice you would give somebody who is just starting out on their journey, whether it's tarot or Reiki or anything else? It doesn't matter
Mm,
what it is, but
mm.
they feel maybe confused. They don't know which way to go. They don't know what they should be doing with their life, and they just want to get started somewhere.
Yeah, I believe when we find our life purpose, it's something we like to do. We do it pretty well, but we want to do it better. So we look into new ways to do it. And when we do it, time disappears. And I'm talking to you, I have no idea the time. When I'm reading, as a coach, I had to keep my eye on the clock because I would go on and on and on. And I have a timer and all that stuff. The other thing is, people who get overwhelmed or think I got to do one thing or another, take it really easy. I have something that I recommend to people called SNITs. Sit, have a cup of tea, have a list of all the things you want to do, whether for the rest of your life or the day, and look at it. What's the first things first? What does your heart want to do? And what's the smallest possible thing you can do on one of those? But don't move. Don't move. Have a cup of tea and think about it. Sit back. Take it easy. Relax. And do it again with another project. but don't move. And when I do this, Jeremy, because I don't, yeah, I've been doing it a lot, so I don't get overwhelmed as much. But my day, by the time I wake up from in bed, my day is all scattered already. So I have to rewrite it. But it's this ability to all of a sudden that small next indicated thing, that snit goes, well, I could move that piece of paper over there. And that it flips and you move that piece of paper over there, and all of a sudden you're on something. So it's the same with learning tarot and astrology. Take it really easy. Have I have my cards ready. I have astrology on my apps so that I could enjoy myself in that bliss anytime I want. And it will just start materialize, I think, you know. I also will say that if anybody really wants to do this as a full-time endeavor, heart endeavor, I encourage the idea of asking yourself, what is my spiritual mission? And I'm a spiritual coach, so that's what I'm going to say. What is it I want to share with people through this methodology? What do I want to help them with? How do I want to help them? Because that purpose, that heart purpose, it is the magnetic gravitational force that leads us through changes and stumbles and riverbeds and Ferris wheels. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. To me, it does. I think the biggest thing people have problem is just the act of doing, right? It's, oh, I'm interested in this. Let me read 5 books about it. But then you never take the action to actually just do it. Like at least for me, tarot, it always was interesting, but it was like I just kept getting held off by it because I felt overwhelmed looking at the cards, trying to memorize every single card, trying to
Mhm.
fully understand it all. Versus someone did tell me the same thing. We're like, just look at the cards, see what you see. There's the symbology is there, especially when you get the more traditional deck, not the, Lord of the Rings or the Crows or, there's so many
Yeah.
different variables now. But if you start with just the original classic deck, you can see all the symbology.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. This guy's got, he's I think it's like the Nine of Swords where he's laying, it's like a coffin and there's swords going over his head. It's like, okay, yeah, he's struggling, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or you see someone with a bunch of pentagrams, which is supposed to represent money and overflowing and abundance. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
That makes more sense looking at the traditional one versus getting those specialty decks right off and being
Yeah.
very confused.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. The Rider Waite is a nice basic one, and there's a lot of variation of that, herbal Rider Waite and stuff like that. But I have seen people new in with tarot who are fascinated by the Thoth deck, which is
Yeah.
incredibly complex, or the Hermetic deck, or the Hermetic philosophy deck, which has got all the Hermetic symbols on it. So whatever pulls and lines, we'll talk.
Yeah.
It's that relationship. Yeah. And taking it easy. Yeah.
Yeah, the Toth. I forgot about that one. I actually have that one too because I was like, oh, that looks cool. And then I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
there's a lot here.
Yeah. 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 Depends on what you want to dive into. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also I want to say the truth too is if you want to read for people, just simply try reading for people. Get friends and go, because it's terrifying, I think, because you have to have that leap of faith. I am meant to do this. And that's why I don't want to hear anybody's question. I lay it out and I read what I read. I hear what I hear. And that's why I do it for 35 years, because the people go, oh my God, that I was just talking about that. And I go, that's cool. But I try to remove my filter and just let it flow. And it is so much fun. So if you have any kind of reading psychic gift, just find trusted people and just start sharing.
And so you said you read without even having them ask a question?
I always ask people, don't tell me what your question is.
Okay.
Just shuffle them. And if you have a question, think about it. Okay. And then I read, then the cards sort of, I don't know, talk to me, tell me something, and I listen and blah blah. And I share. And invariably there's only been less than a handful. And I've done hundreds and hundreds over 35 years. Less than a handful of people going, that doesn't make any sense at all. They usually go, oh. One person I read, she didn't say a thing. I told her what I saw. She looked up and go, that's exactly what I needed. And she walked out. So this tells me I'm meant to bring this to people. I don't need to understand. I don't need to understand. I'm just playing. I'm just enjoying myself when people go, that helps so much. And I go, great. Yes.
Have you ever tried like I Ching or anything like that?
I am diving into the I Ching. I love the I Ching. I'm having so much fun. I got like about 35 years ago, I discovered Taoism. Okay. So the yin yang and Taoism or Taoism, how do you say it? I remember just reading a bunch about different religions and philosophies, and it says Taoists don't believe in guilt. And I went, oh, okay. How do I sign up for that? I'm in, right? And I'm fascinated with it because it goes to the basic technology, IO, just light on, light off.
Hmm.
Light on, light off. But then the lines and the hexagrams take us through the seasons. And I do that every morning and as a repetition to learn, as I did with these other disciplines. And it's also helping me with the state of political, social affairs because I Ching, it says 5,000 years, but I believe 10,000 years of people watching the seasons and watching the seasons of dynasties and villages and kings. And so I get to step back and see the world out there and go, oh, we're in that winter stage, or okay, I'm gonna live to be 101 so I can watch how it happens. So.
Well, I guess with that, since you brought up with the politics, I don't want to go too deep into that because that's not what the show's about, but there's a lot of like prophecies right now within my own lineage. We call this the Pachacuti. It's the time of great change.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of other astrological folks who are like, yeah, the next 5 years is going to be a little bit more crazier. Then it's supposed to lighten up, and hopefully we've hit that next turning point. The Mayan calendar, for example, everybody was like, oh, the end of the world is 2012. No, that was the end of a cycle, and it takes 18 years for a new cycle to start. And so technically that brings us up to 2030 as well. There's just all these things culminating at this moment in time,
Mm-hmm.
and we all chose to be here for whatever reason
Mm-hmm.
to witness it. And I guess, if you don't want to go too deep into it, that's fine. But I'm just curious from that astrological point, do you notice anything that maybe people should be cautious of or think about? Or because when I tell people what I hear is coming and what I've seen, like they're like, yeah, yeah, whatever, it's gonna be fine. I'm like, it maybe where we're at, it might not be as bad as other places, but things are going to get very crazy the next couple of years. There's a book out, it's called The Fourth Turning.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Mm-hmm.
concept is like we have these turning points throughout our societies. It's usually like every generation, and we're in the fourth turning where things are kind of collapsing, and then a new turning point will start up again. It's like
Mm-hmm.
20 to 40 years, I think, for each turning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, well, I'm extremely excited that Pluto is in Aquarius. Extremely. Pluto goes through the signs from between 20 and 30 years. Accurate people will tell me exactly and make a comment. But so that follows a very similar kind of thing that you were talking about, the fourth turning, so it was in Capricorn, building, structures, organization, and control and manipulation and all that. And Aquarius is like quirky, crazy, humanitarian, different. And Pluto's about transformation. It's the shaman. It's also this freaking steamroller. I remember telling people when I see a Pluto transit, get rid of your secrets because you have no hope, because it's going to come right over you like that. So it's going to, I believe the next 20, 30 years is going to take belief systems and go, yeah, not so much. Now, I'm voting for the aliens to show up. I got to tell you, I am voting. And what I also find
Supposed
is
to be
very
on the
fascinating.
bingo card.
What's that?
It's supposed to be on the bingo card. We'll see what happens.
I'm excited. Beam me up. Let's go. The what also I find it's a very interesting I don't know, alternative side effect of all that is these archaeological sites that are showing up 10,000 years with designs and symbolism, and we have no idea where they came from. Like, yeah, okay, somebody did it. Why worry about crop circles? I've been fascinated with crop circles forever, and so I want one to show up in Kansas, that kind of thing. So I do think that that is a season of our planets. I mean, Pluto is so far away, it still has an effect. It is still held in gravitational force by the sun, which is all the way on that side of us. So the fact that these forces are going through us, affecting our little pieces of protoplasm on the third rock from the sun, it's like, yeah, oh my God, yeah. Yeah, lots of stuff's going to go happening. Also, Uranus and Saturn and Neptune are moving into new signs. Now, Saturn goes a little bit faster, but these are slow moving planets. So it's like shifting the earth. It's like a little earthquake. It's like the water creating a little tidal swamp, or it's a landslide, or the earth is doing it, right? Things are happening. And so, yeah, but some of us will survive, not even notice. And some of us will leave the planet for another ride, coming back or something. And I think that for me, my belief about that adds to the excitement. I mean, I think I've had dreams of apocalyptic things, and I wake up and I go, oh man, I survived. Oh man, okay. So depends on how you look at it.
Oh yeah, and I mean even the word apocalypse is really just like the unveiling or the reveal. It's not even about the I mean it's the end of the world as we know it, but it doesn't mean it's all
Yeah,
fire and brimstone and
yeah, yeah,
death. But you see
yeah,
more and more people are like, "Oh no, this is corrupt. This system's broken. This is messed up over here. This isn't right. We shouldn't be doing this. What is going on?" Like all of a sudden it's just people are just waking up to this. To them, it's like a new reality, and you have these old timers going, "This is what we've been trying to tell you for 20 years, but you keep saying we were crazy."
yeah.
And
Well, I'm an old hippie, and peace, love. If you're not part of the problem, part of the solution, you're part of the problem. And Kent State and all that stuff that happened back then, it's just the old boss same as the new boss same as the old boss. I think that for me, it I don't feel it has a lot of power over me because I see it as the yin yanging. Everybody's doing what they think is the best thing, their best idea. Might not be my idea. And I think more and more we're recognizing that we can be different and have harmony. Two different notes that sound really good together. It's not balance. It's not the same piece of pie for everybody. There's a lot of different ways to look at it, but harmony. It could be jazz, it could be rock, it could be classical music. It doesn't matter, but they're all about vibrations being good together. And we all know that vibrations that are not good together creates the shift of the earth.
Hmm.
So, but in nature, That's not wrong. We're just going to have an earthquake. We're shifting. So, but we have this mind that says, oh, good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. So
Right.
we got to deal with that.
Or again, those limiting beliefs, those stories that we've created of, if you don't believe in every single thing that I believe in, then obviously you are wrong and you are part of the problem versus, well, let's talk about it. You don't need to fully believe what somebody else believes, but you can at least try to come from a place of understanding. There's tons of people that I deal with on both sides of the political aisle or even life in general, where it's like, dude, I don't believe in everything you've said there, but I can understand these aspects of it, and vice versa. There doesn't have to be a complete wrong or right, and we get too focused on that, and then we're never talking, and then we're just fighting, and then people upstairs are just like, "Yep, I told you. All we had to do is tell the farmers that the pitchforks were theirs, or whatever." That meme that goes around. So we're no longer going against the hierarchy. We're just fighting each other over, honestly, the dumbest things, as far as I'm concerned. Like things that
Yeah.
truly don't matter because we're not listening to each other.
Well, and I believe, and this comes up when I coach, it's all about the only two forces in the world is fear and faith, or fear and love. Now, but I believe that actually there is only love. Fear is a disbelief in love, and so I think it's and I'll say this: one of the realities of astrology helped me with this. We have day and night, yes and no, good and bad, very much duality that comes a lot from day and night. Oh, it's nighttime, it's dark, it's evil, whatever. The sun never goes away.
Hmm.
We turn our backs to it. No big deal. And the dawn comes. No big deal. It's just a cycle. So, you know, I, I don't know. I find that makes so much sense. So that the rigid and the Tao says that's which is rigid will break, and that's what is flexible will sustain, and that's why water carved the Grand Canyon. And I'm gonna leave my dishes in the sink, and they're washed really fine. I'm not gonna scrub them. So I don't know. That came out of nowhere. Sorry.
No worries. Cool. So as we start to wrap up, why don't you let people know where they can find you? I'll put all the links that you already gave me in the show notes as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm situated now in the Pacific Northwest, up in Preston, just outside of Seattle, for anybody who knows where we are. And I do a lot of fairs. Arlington, there's a metaphysical market in Everett. There's the Enchanted Market in Arlington. The MeWe fairs are in Bellevue, Linwood. I've done those kind of fairs in Oregon. I don't know if I'll be down there much. What is the other? The Norwalk. I'll be at Norwalk in the end of May, and that's at South Center area. I do most of my coaching online with Zoom, FaceTime, through the phone. You can reach me through spiritplays@gmail.com, or my website is spiritplays.net. I believe my I don't do a lot of posting. It's Spirit Plays for You in Instagram, something like that on Facebook. I don't do a lot of posting at this time. I do have room for more clients. I love helping people, and then they get helped, and they say thank you very much, which is wonderful and sad at the same time. I can do tarot and astrology. I can just do basic astrology. I can spend time coaching. I don't need to do tarot or astrology to do coaching. I don't know. I think that's about it.
Right. Are you still teaching at all or planning to teach?
Oh, yes. Oh my God. Thank you. There's a new little shop in Shoreline in North Seattle called Salvation. It is a adorable. It does recycle art. All the artists do art out of recycled materials. It's so brilliant. It's so cute. It's at 15th and 155th and Shoreline. I'm going to be reading tarot there on Sundays, and I'm also going to do on Sunday, the 28th of December, and Sunday, the 4th of January. Uh, and I'll send anybody this information from 11. I'm going to do a little astrological year ahead thing,
Okay.
and that'll be free. I do my tarot readings or just mini readings, like $2 a minute or something like that. Um, and I'm hoping to do more workshops in that little shop. Allie is amazing. She put this together. Plug for salvation. So yes, thank you for reminding me.
No, not a problem.
Mhm.
Again, it was a pleasure having you on. I really did enjoy having you on and talking about all this stuff and answering my simplistic questions, if you will. But they always just made me curious, especially with the sun moon rising thing. And I was like, which one
Yeah,
should I really look
yeah.
at?
Well,
Because
you get a
I
free reading, Jeremy, so you're gonna have to give me a call. We'll set it up. Yeah.
appreciate it. All right. Well, thank you for coming, and I'll put all your links in, and please, hopefully, some people reach out to you or at least come by Shoreline and
Yeah.
take a
Yeah.
class.
I'd love to hear from anybody, comments, questions, how I can help. Thanks
Sweet.
an awful lot for bringing me on,
Thank you.
Jeremy. Okay. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And if something our guests shared resonated with you, connect out to them. That's what these stories are here for. And if you're looking for deeper healing or support, you can always find me at pnwshamanichealing.com. See you in the next episode.